So thank you for that introduction and giving me the chance to be a speaker at the event. I'll dive straight into my presentation. I'm speaking about the waste problem in the Himalayas, which is where my work is based and where my organization is based. Um, my presentation is very short. It's just about 10 slides consisting mainly of pictures. So that will be easy and I guess interesting to follow. To set the context, where do we work? Himalayas is a huge area spanning several countries. So we are located in the Indian part of the Himalayas, bordering China on the east and Pakistan on the northwest. As you can tell, perhaps from this picture, it's a remote location. And what is special about this place is that it is a high altitude region located at an average altitude of 3,500 meters above sea level, which makes it one of the highest inhabited regions in the world. So why talk about waste of this region? Because tourism has grown a lot in this area. And with that, the waste problem has also increased. At the same time, the lifestyle of the local population who led a very traditional life until very recently has undergone drastic change, and that has added to the waste problem. So next slide, please. First, I would like to begin by telling you what is the waste situation. So yes, I guess this photo is self-explanatory. In one simple line, the waste situation is that public resorts to a lot of unregulated ways of disposing waste. Now, this might come as shocking to many of you, but some of you might also be able to relate to the problem if you have visited remote areas or countries or communities which don't have adequate infrastructure to manage waste. So open dumping, this is very common, and it's also a routine practice for many people. The reasons for which are primarily two. One is that many communities or neighborhoods do not have access to government waste management systems. And the other reason is that many people don't care, even if government waste collection trucks do come to their doorstep or in their lane, they don't know the timetables, don't want to be ready with their waste, and rather prefer to just find a spot in the outskirts of their village or somewhere along the way where they routinely throw the waste. So as you can see very obviously, this pollutes the land and spoils the aesthetic beauty of such beautiful landscapes. Next slide, please. Another interesting method, very widespread in the mountains, is pit dumping. So this is more of a communal practice. Villages which don't have waste management systems provided by the government dig pits like these. As you can see, it's a huge, deep pit, and they would perhaps throw waste in it for 6 months or a year, and finally cover it up when the pit cannot take any more waste. So this, in my opinion, is very problematic. First is that anyway, they are doing something wrong. And second, by covering it up, they remove the chance of ever finding the waste and recovering the usable materials from it. Next slide, please. Here, two more interesting or rather sad ways of unregulated waste disposal. On the left side, you see burning. And the picture that you see is all of these photos are taken by my team members and I at different points of the year. So this is a picture taken early in the morning where actually government authorities repeatedly burn the waste that they cannot recover. And it's a lot of waste being burned over there. So you can imagine the amount of waste pollution happening in the mountains. On the right side is a common practice of throwing waste in water bodies. And in the mountain areas, there are lots of streams originating directly from glaciers. Until a decade or two ago, this was all potable water, but now because of waste pollution and other kinds of wrong practices, not only cannot you drink this water, but also it resembles something like sewage. So there you see in the picture is a dead fish we found during a cleanup caught in one of the plastic bags. So waste pollution also directly affects aquatic life. Next slide, please. Yeah, now I come to the second part of my presentation, which is what is the government doing? So government waste management intervention is quite conventional, which is that they build sheds like the one you see in the picture, a red shed. These are buildings where waste is brought from the neighborhoods and segregated, as you see on the right side, segregated into different categories, and then sent upstream or downstream, either for recycling or to sold to scrap dealers. That's the way the system works. However, what the problem here is that out of the waste collected, a very little amount only is recoverable. The rest of it, again, has to be thrown in pits, open pits, like the one you see dug up right next to the shed. So this is how waste management works in the mountains and in many other areas which are not linked to main cities and towns. Next slide, please. Incineration. So this is another method used by governments world over, which is burning waste at very high temperatures in closed furnace so that only ash remains. However, now there's a growing consensus among scientists that this is one of the worst methods because incineration leads to release of dioxins and furans and whatnot, other gases, which no, chemistry students or scientists will be able to tell more about. But the bottom line is that this is just not sustainable in the long term. However, there are many companies that have now emerged who are manufacturing these incinerators, big incinerator, medium incinerator, small incinerator, and they are constantly approaching authorities, local authorities, central authorities, and trying to sell their products and get the incinerators installed and make a business out of it, while community suffers and environment suffers. Next slide, please. So what is the sustainable solution? Now I come to the third and last part of my presentation. And this is what now more and more people are talking about. This is what I personally believe, and this is what my organization is also trying to do, is the zero waste approach. This has now become quite a popular thing, also well known, the R principles. Rethink, that we should rethink about everything that's going on around us. As some of the youth speakers were mentioning, whatever we use, where is it coming from? How much environmental destruction is in the history of that product? Do we really need it? How long are we going to use it? Etc., etc. So rethinking about everything that is around us is perhaps the first step. Second, refusing things that we do not need, which are surplus to our lifestyle. We should refuse then and there. That way we can cut out a lot of unnecessary waste generation and unnecessary things from our life. Reducing things without which you cannot do, that at least you can reduce in quantity the consumption of such things. For example, clothes. We cannot do without clothes, but instead of having 10 pairs of something, we can manage with 1 or 2 pairs. Repairing used to be an age-old practice, but somehow the fashion has become to just discard things prematurely. However, the time has come again to go back to repairing things, and that could be pretty much everything. Repairing electronics, clothes, shoes, bags, toys, everything can be repaired if you just put the adequate amount of time, energy, and resources into it. Repurposing, which means if things have lost their original purpose, we can put it to some other use. Like a mug, if the handle has broken, it can become a planter, pot, something like that. So we can use our creativity and innovation to come up with a huge range of ideas of how to repurpose things. Many people have come up with entire business models around repurposing. Resale, this is another, gem of a strategy, I think, especially with valuable materials like metal and glass, and in countries like India, which have a huge informal waste management sector, reselling of waste materials holds a lot of importance in the grand scheme of things. And lastly, recycle. So if you notice here, recycle is placed at the end. However, many people try to show recycle as the main and the only solution to the waste problem. It is not. Recycling takes up a huge amount of resources. Recycled products have a hard time competing with products made from virgin materials. They have a hard time finding a market. Producers of recycled products find it difficult to keep the prices low, so on and so forth. So recycling, yes, it is an option, but it has its own place at the very bottom of the zero waste hierarchy. Next slide, please. Yeah, here are two examples of projects that our organization is doing in this remote area of the Himalayas. So perhaps this could be some sort of an inspiration for the youth who want to work in the field. One is textile waste upcycling project. One of the youth speakers before me was mentioning that textile is a very carbon heavy product. So going by that logic, it makes a lot of sense to reuse textile waste instead of just landfilling them or sending them for recycling. The first option should be to use them as they are to make other products. So the picture on the left is that a group of women who work with us are sorting the textile waste manually. Very simple methods, but leading to very good results. On the right side, you see certain finished products being sold in the market. Hence, circular economy, income generation, skill development, many things involved in a project like this. Next slide, please. Another project that we have done in the recent past is called Zero Waste Period Project. This project is aimed at tackling the problem of menstrual waste. I mean, everybody knows nothing good can be done with menstrual waste. Of course, now technology is coming up to recycle pads and all that. But I don't think that is feasible for everybody, especially in remote areas where we don't have any infrastructure. We cannot dream of having recycling plants for recycling plastic pads. The better option is to move away from single-use items to reusable items, which will last you for a long time, for many years. So here in this picture, you see we are giving awareness to village women about using the menstrual cup. We have conducted lots of awareness camps, reached out to some 1,500, 2,000 women, and provided menstrual cups at subsidized rates. And I guess the overall impact of such projects is quite widespread. Next slide, please. Yeah, so with that, I come to the end of my short presentation. The last picture you see here is also an example, is also from one of our projects where we are diverting wet waste, vegetable waste, to feed stray animals. So you might hear a lot about of emphasis being given to composting, how that is the best method. But then again, you have to see where you are located, what resources you have at your disposal. So in the mountains, temperatures are very low, and especially in this area, you see moisture level is also low. It's a cold desert climate, so composting is practically not possible unless you subject the matter to some special conditions in an industrial composter. So we came up with a plan of taking the waste, vegetable waste, directly from the shops and feeding it to stray animals. So, I mean, the bottom line is that although waste is a global problem, but it has regional variations, and those who are trying to tackle the problem perhaps need to be aware of the larger picture, but work on a local scale. And here are the links to our organization. If anybody has questions, would like to know more, please check out, please get in touch. Thank you.